Hey everyone, CBC News article out of Montreal today. Headline, Quebec companies look to asylum seekers to help fill labor shortages. Since last January, RCMP has intercepted more than 15,000 people crossing into Quebec. So all these crony corporations and the government, they're all benefiting tremendously there because, some of these people, like I say, some of them will become parasitical and create or grow bureaucracy in Canada, right? So, think of all the government work that's happened as a result of all this illegal crossing. Now you got, lots of military personnel down there at the border. You got some of the police, the RCMP, the Border Services Agency. Now you're growing more bureaucracy to, do the paperwork and filing for all this mass influx of illegal immigrants. So government's benefiting tremendously, creating and increasing the level of the bureaucracy and the state. But who else is benefit? These crony corporations. And I'll say first and foremost, Canada, listen, don't support, if you're a Quebecer, don't support these companies if you know that they're hiring these illegal immigrants or these asylum seekers and forcing your local population to race down to that lowest common denominator to try to compete with these people that, like I say, they're not burdened with any of the imposition that the government has imposed on you, right? All the debt obligations and all the economic and social impositions that they have forced and thrust upon you. These people get to walk in with all the benefits of government propping them up, taking care of them, and forcing you, actually, because government doesn't take care of anybody. They force you, or the unborn at this stage, because debt levels are so high now, especially in places like Quebec or Ontario. They're forcing the unborn, which obviously can't even defend themselves because they're not born yet, to subsidize and pay for these people to compete with the domestic population for jobs. And you wonder why you're constantly having to have on the floor like a minimum wage and stuff. Well, how can you compete when corporations can use government or allow government incompetence, like this mass influx of borders? We're supposed to have a secure border. But corporations, crony corporations, are benefit tremendously from the incompetence of these central planners. So whether they're working together or they're just benefiting each other, the crony corporations and the government, they're all benefiting tremendously from this stuff. You got to start to stand on principle, okay? Because if you don't do so, Canada, people of Quebec, anywhere in Canada, if you don't start standing on principle and start pushing back against this stuff instead of listening to the bullshit benevolent pretense that these central planners try to thrust upon you, like Trudeau and his we got to care about these people. Well, what? No, we got to care about our fucking selves, first and foremost. And I don't give a shit about you fucking dipshits that try to say, oh no, you should care about other people. Be benevolent. Sacrifice yourself for the greater good. Fuck you. I don't do that shit. I'm not a lamb. And I don't consider myself a sacrificial animal of any shape or form. So no, I come first. My family comes first. My immediate community come first. Well, the ones that I care about at least. My neighbors. But no, sorry, as much as I got nothing against these people. But no, sorry, you're not a priority. There's a finite amount of resources, and actually the Canadian government is already burned up and run through all the resources. So like I say, they're now into enslaving future generations. So no, we're not going to continue to keep pulling future productivity, labor, and prosperity to the here and now to subsidize governments, crony corporations, and force the domestic population down to meet these people on that race to the bottom. Alison Northcutt from the CBC is who's presenting this article. Like many asylum seekers who have recently arrived in Montreal, Junior Amasai is eager to build a life in Canada. Originally from Haiti, the 31-year-old had been living with his wife and 3 children in Florida for 2 years, but crossed the border illegally from the U.S. into Quebec in August. They are part of a wave of thousands of people who have left the U.S. to seek asylum in Canada in the past year. While he waits for his hearing at the Immigration and Refugee Board to find out if his refugee claim will be accepted, Amasai has found an apartment, a school for his kids, applied for a work permit from the federal government, and is now looking for a job. Having a job is the first step, he said. I can start working in Canada to get off of social assistance and start paying taxes to improve my life. So like I said, right now he's on social assistance. So once again, you and your children or your future, the unborn, are being forced to subsidize this person. Not just paying for their livelihood already, but forcing them to compete with your kids or your grandkids for a job. You're selling your kids up the river. Have you no loyalty, people? Do you not care about family values at all? Quebec is in the midst of a labor shortage brought on by an aging population and economic growth. The province's unemployment rate was 5.4% in November, one of the lowest rates in Canada and Quebec's lowest in decades. But yet there's still, this is the thing when they talk about these unemployment rates, they never really want to talk much about the labor force participation rate. So while the unemployment rate might seem, that's just the people that would be considered normally actively seeking employment. They're leaving out, what is it? I know for the greater population of Canada, it's in excess of what, 30-something% of the population that doesn't even actively seek out to work or have any gainful employment? That's a substantial number. And why? Because they're probably benefit from living off of the dole or being parasites from other people. So, there's lots of people that would fill these positions without having to bring these asylum seekers or illegals or temporary foreign workers. It's just allow some market fundamentals to take place. Allow employees to have the ability to hold their employers to account, to have at least some semblance of ability to bargain for a better wage, which increases their livelihoods, which would increase the actual economic prosperity of the rest of Canada, right? So that's the thing they always leave behind. They need strangers to do this, but trust me, domestic populations can do so. To suggest that people from Haiti are somehow better, are more easily adaptable of filling these labor gaps than a Canadian population of people that are seemingly should be a lot smarter and actually understand Canada a whole lot better and understand the languages better. So to suggest that you need these illegals to come here to take the place of the domestic population and without them all the economy will collapse tomorrow, it's bullshit. And besides, this is all that, even with the reduced population growth, it's all about how central planners were trying to manipulate how things were done going forward in the past. Just stop listening to these fucking goddamn central planners, these manipulators, these people that want to completely intervene into your social and economic lives continuously. These people whose minds are all about this grand experimenting with human lives and capital. Stop falling for the rhetoric. While I hold no ill feelings towards this man or any of these other people, I mean, if they're good people. I don't know any of them personally, so maybe I do, maybe I don't. If I got to know them personally, I would be able to tell you one way or the other. But as it is now, I don't know these people from the hole in the ground, so my personal opinion or feelings towards them, those people, let's leave that out of the equation. Who gives a shit? My problem, my issue rests and reside in the people, like I say, the government fucks, the central planners, the authoritarians that are all benefiting from this, and now these crony corporations that are forcing the domestic population to once again have to secede or succumb to having to race down to that lowest common denominator just to be gainfully employed. Come on, Canada. Come on, Quebec. You got to do better than this. The future of this country relies on you doing better than this. It's Canadian Libertarian. I love liberty.